Hi guys, it's your host Sybil and welcome to Take 254. This is going to be a spoiler review of season 4 of Love is Blind, episodes 9 through 11. So first I'm going to do a recap so far of what's been going on. So the singles met up in the pods, and from that we got 5 couples, Zach and Irina, Jacqueline and Marshall, and who else did we get? Brett and Tiffany, who are the favorites of this season. We got Kwame and Chelsea, and Paul and Micah. So everyone went on to the pre-honeymoon like other seasons before. They went on the pre-honeymoon in Mexico, Cabo. And from there, Zach and Irina broke up. It was initiated by Zach. He saw that there wasn't a connection between them. He felt he had made a mistake, and he went back to Seattle when they all returned from their honeymoons, fiancé moons. When he went back to Seattle, he wound up reconnecting with Bliss. So Zach and Irina broke up in the fiancé honeymoon period, and when they went back to Seattle, he got back together with Bliss. And now, so we have Zach and Bliss as a couple instead of Zach and Irina. So let's dig right into episode 9. So we have Jackie and Marshall. They go back home after Chelsea's 31st birthday party where Jackie had been flirting with Josh. And when they go back home, Marshall is just trying to bring up the conversation again, trying to revisit the argument they had had. In episode 6, 7, one of those episodes, 6, 7, I can't remember, Jackie had an argument with Marshall talking about how he needs to man up in the bedroom especially. So that was a point of contention for the two of them, and they went back and forth over it. Marshall ended up leaving for 3 days according to Jackie, but Marshall on social media has been saying it was only 2 days. Either way, for an experiment that only lasts less than a month, these people are together in the pods for 10 days, go on a honeymoon for 5, and then 3 weeks later are married. 2 days, 3 days is a long time to be away from your partner. So I understood the anxiety someone would have in Jackie's position if you had an argument with someone and they just dipped after that and were gone for 2-3 days. So Jackie and Marshall arguing as usual. We're used to it by now. Rather not trying to argue, because Jackie wasn't having none of it after the party. After Chelsea's birthday party, she was just tired. Marshall was trying to press the issue, talking about, tell me what's wrong, what do you want me to give you, just tell me what to do. But Jackie was just like, just love me, and they left the conversation there. Then we pan over to Kwame and Chelsea. Chelsea is doing some shopping for some pants. She's in a store, and Kwame is not happy. This is another couple that's been having issues all through this season. So, Kwame basically says that Chelsea is overbearing and he feels like he's been compromising a lot in the relationship. This is in the confessionals. He's been saying this. And then to her face, he just discusses how confrontational and how passive aggressive she can get from time to time. She made a comment. He said good morning to her, how you doing? And then she asked him, in a sarcastic way, do I look like I'm fine? And that's just turned Kwame off, and he felt like she was being passive aggressive and she had an issue with him. And Chelsea's retort to that was like, Kwame, you're nitpicking everything. And you know what, Chelsea, they're both right. Chelsea is overbearing. She is in such a rush. She's pushing things so much, and their relationship does right now come across like Kwame is the one doing most of the sacrificing. Kwame lives in Portland, but he'll have to move over to where Chelsea's at because he works remotely. Okay, that makes sense, but that's a big shift for him. Then again, Chelsea just feels like Kwame is nitpicking every little thing, which is true because according to us, the audience, it doesn't seem like Kwame really is interested in Chelsea. He wants to be with Micah, or he just doesn't want to be with Chelsea at all. So he seems to be looking for little holes in the relationship that he can use as an escape route and end this relationship with Chelsea. Then we move over to Tiffany and Brett, and Tiffany and Brett are finally listening. Thank you, Netflix, for listening, as though they do this show for me. Who am I? But finally, we're meeting Brett's friends. But it was still like, it didn't give me that insight that I want into Brett's personality. I didn't really come out of it feeling like I know more about Brett, because the whole time he was commanding the conversation the whole time. It almost felt like very much like a TED Talk. He was going into this whole professing his love for Tiffany and how amazing she is and all this. His friends were just intently listening to everything he said. Like the interaction between Brett and his friends, I wasn't really satisfied with that. I still didn't get a glimpse into who Brett really is outside of this experiment. I just felt like it was a TED Talk and this was a very attentive audience, as Brett was just confessing and doing this big declaration of his love to Tiffany. But that's Brett and Tiffany, being sweet as usual. But I'm still not sold on Brett all the way. There's nothing wrong with him, but that's the thing. He's just there. He's not good, he's not bad, because we just still haven't gotten, at least I don't feel like I've gotten enough information about Brett of who he was before he came onto this experiment. And even though we finally got to meet people who apparently knew him from before the experiment of Love is Blind, I still didn't get any good sense of the type of person Brett is, because his interaction with his friends was very, as I said, one-sided. He was just talking the whole time and they were nodding along like an attentive TED Talk audience. So we move over to Zach and Bliss, and we meet Zach's family. He has a lovely family, his sister, his uncles, and we see a picture of his mom. His mom was beautiful, and that was a nice interaction for Zach and Bliss. It goes well. And Paul and Micah, they have a date. These two are just another couple that's just chill. I don't mind Paul and Micah, but I did express some concerns in my previous video, the Love is Blind episode 6 through 8 spoiler review that I did. I expressed some concern about Micah's relationships with her friends, the type of friendship dynamics that she keeps falling into this pattern where she ends up being the queen bee and attracting these people who are envious of her or are competing with her or want to be her, like Shelby and Irina. And I feel like she's still not mature enough for a serious committed relationship like marriage. So I'm not sure about Paul and Micah for the moment. But Paul, he seems head over heels in love with Micah at this point, and he's just telling her how he's open-minded to moving to Arizona. In the previous episodes, he was pretty much set on staying in Seattle, but now, he feels deeply about Micah, and he feels like their relationship and she's worth the move from Seattle and to go to Arizona. And then we move over to Bliss and Zach. Zach gets to meet Bliss's mom and sisters, and that was also a lovely interaction. Bliss's mom was wonderful, crying, and she just reassured Zach and told him how, even though his mom has passed on, if him and Bliss ended up working out, she would be his mom and he would be like a son to her. So that was lovely. I really appreciated how that interaction went and how much they embraced Zach. And Zach went on to tell he went on to tell Bliss's family about the love triangle that happened in the pods between Bliss, him, and Irina, which was so unnecessary. But he ended up pulling it back and redeeming himself by professing his love to Bliss. And all's well that ends well. That whole interaction went well overall. Then we move over to Kwame meeting with Chelsea's family, her mom's side of the family. So it's her mom and the aunts and the nieces, and it's a big family. They have a lovely waterfront property. Oh, I love the place. It looked great. And when Kwame was around Chelsea's family, I did notice that Chelsea, as she was gushing over him, talking about all his accolades, how he was an ex-soccer player, how he's, got his own business, he's really intelligent, he's really this and that and that. I just felt like he seemed a little bit uncomfortable. And I remember during the pods stages how he was talking about how he always felt like whenever he met the partner's family and friends, he always had to overperform and kind of prove himself like he was worthy of their company or to be with their daughter. And I felt like the way Chelsea was talking about Kwame to her mom and her aunts was triggering for him. I also felt kind of triggered by that. Like, it's almost like she was qualifying him, like trying to say, okay, I got one of the good, good ones. Like, he's the exception. Look at how amazing he is. Like, yeah, so I felt like that was kind of triggering for Kwame too. You could tell that he was a bit uncomfortable and he was trying to get out of there. And when Kwame had his one-on-one with Chelsea's mom, it was weird. Like, the first question she asked was how he gets along with Chelsea, how well he's getting along with Chelsea's dog. It's like, there's so many other questions to get to before that. But you know how certain people are about their dogs and pets and such. But yeah, so that conversation was very whimsical. I didn't find it like, it didn't go deep enough. It wasn't the kind of conversation I'd expect a mom to have with, a potential son-in-law. And in this crazy experiment, how it came about to be, I was like, get serious, Chelsea's mom. Like, ask some deep questions. Like, what's all this talk about how you getting along with Chelsea's dog, and and then Kwame came back with how he had a pet squirrel in Ghana, and I was like, is that a real thing? I don't know if there are any Ghanaians watching. Do we have squirrels in Ghana? I wasn't sure about that. That was kind of weird. But anyway, the whole interaction just felt like kind of pointless. Then we move on to, episode 9 was just basically, these meetings of the families, and it was kind of boring up until the end, where we have, the couples going for their fittings, the men going to try their tuxedos and the women going to try on their wedding gowns. And there's no particular wedding gown among the women that really stood out to me. I liked Micah's second choice. I thought that she looked nice. Her body really looked great in that gown. It was really flattering to her. I'm trying to remember, Bliss had that, the sleeves. I didn't like the sleeve action that was going on, and the color, that off-white color. I wasn't really into that, but overall, it was an okay dress. I can't remember Chelsea's dress when she did the gown fitting, so I'm just going to say it was okay. It was just there, neither good nor bad. Yeah, Tiffany, I couldn't remember her dress either. So I would say out of all the gowns, my favorite was probably Micah's second choice, the one that she ultimately ended up going with. And yeah, so we have just the women trying on their gowns, the men trying on fitting their tuxedos. And here is the big shocker. Jackie did show up for her wedding gown fitting, and Tiffany ends up texting Brett. Brett ends up going over to Marshall to let him know, like, yo, Jackie did not come. She did not show up for her wedding gown fitting. And that's the cliffhanger we end on episode 9. So in episode 10, we cut off. Oh wait, before episode 9 ends, after Brett goes over to Marshall and lets him know, look, Jackie did not end up showing up for her wedding gown fitting. The Love is Blind, they're quick with it. The production cuts to a scene of Jackie in a coffee shop, and guess what? Who is she meeting up with? Josh. Is this happening at the same time that she was supposed to be at the wedding gown fitting when the other couples are fitting for their gowns and tuxedos? Jackie skipped out on that to go and meet with Josh. It's unclear about that. Right now, there's a lot of talk going on social media, Twitter, all this, and Jackie's talking about how that whole scene was shot out of sequence. She's defending herself on social media. So right now it's kind of ambiguous whether she was actually skipping out on the wedding gown fitting and meeting with Josh at the same time, or it's just that she just didn't show up at all, but Josh had nothing to do with that either way. But that's where episode 9 ends. We have Jackie meeting with Josh in a coffee shop, and he professes his interest in her, his love for her, and that's where we end the episode. So in episode 10, we pick up right where we left up with Jackie and Josh in the coffee shop, and they decide to be together. They get up, hug, and make out while Marshall and them are fitting for their tuxedo suits. Jackie is making out with Josh in the coffee shop, and they decide to be a couple. So Episode 10 was also a largely boring episode, you know. But we have Bliss. The only thing that stood up in episode 10, apart from Jackie and Josh meeting up in the coffee shop and making out, was Bliss's dad and Zach meeting. So Bliss and her dad and Zach all meet up, and this does not go well. It's like Zach's biggest fear of being rejected by his partner's family and being judged by them comes true in Bliss's dad. But I don't know, I may be among the few people who sides with Bliss's dad. I mean, he was really rude and heavy-handed with how he went about it, but he wasn't wrong. Like, when he expressed that, okay, it's only been 20 days that you've known this guy and you're gonna get married, I was a bit shocked by that. It took me aback. I was like, oh yeah, by the way, that is like less than 3 weeks. That's so fast. Like, if you take into account the entire time these people know each other, 10 days in the pods, 5 days in the pre-honeymoon, and then we have the 20 days where they live together before they walk down the aisle and say I do or I don't. So that's a total of what, 15, 20, 35 days. That's a little over 1 month. And let's just throw in another week for, you know, logistics, getting from one area to the next, getting from the pods to the pre-honeymoon area location, getting from the pre-honeymoon location to the, you know, to the living quarters where they'll be for the next 3 weeks before they finally walk down the aisle and say they do their wedding ceremonies and say I do. So if we add in, just for logistics, let's just add in another week there. Let's say it's a total of 42 days that these people are together. And 10 of those days, they don't actually see each other. So it's like a little over a month. It's like 6 weeks. That's so fast. I think of all these shows, that may be the fastest, because when I was doing my research, I looked up Married at First Sight and all that. And it also started around like 2014. And they stayed together for 8 weeks before they end up saying I do. So Love is Blind, it has a similar concept to Married at First Sight, which is why I was comparing it to Married at First Sight. And Love is Blind happens much faster than Married at First Sight. But funnily enough, I've noticed that Love is Blind right now, he has a track record of 2 successful couples per season. Successful meaning that they say I do at the end of the season at the altar. And of those couples that have said I do so far, we have 4 that are still together. Lauren and Cameron from season 1, who are the flagship couple of this entire franchise, Love is Blind. And then we have Barnett and Amber, who are low-key. People also forget Barnett and Amber are also from season 1, and they have been together this entire time. They're just a low-key couple who are not out in the public eye. So we have those 2 successful couples who have been together for 4.5 years. So you should go and check out Lauren and Cameron's YouTube channel here on YouTube. And Cameron recently did a video talking about, you know, the timeline of Love is Blind, and he went into the production side of things a little bit. And apparently Love is Blind, the production of season 1 started in 2018. So they have been married for almost 5 years now. And even this season 4 of Love is Blind was shot back to back around overlapping times with season 3 of Love is Blind earlier in 2022. So these people would have been married for a year, more than a year by now. The ones, if there are any couples who said yes, they would have been married for more than a year now. So yeah, we have Lauren and Cameron, we have Barnett and Amber, who are the flagship couples from season 1 of Love is Blind, who have been together for now going on 5 years. Then in season 2, we had Nick and I can't remember the girl Nick got together with, but they are divorced after a year. And we had Jarrett and Ayana, they're divorced after a year. Then in season 3, we have Matt and Colleen, and we have Alexa and Brennan. So those are the couples that said yes from season 3. And so far, we have not heard of any separations, any divorces. So I'm going to assume so far they're together. So that's 4 couples who are still together 4 seasons in. So it's not a bad track record for a show that debuted in 2018. And given how fast everything is going, it's amazing that people even say yes at all. When Bliss's dad brought that up, that's just how fast everything happens and the concerns he had about this whole entire process. It was like, wow, it's amazing that Love is Blind has been successful at all. Like just getting people to actually agree to marry each other after not seeing each other, after only knowing each other for basically 3 weeks face to face, a month total if you count the pods. It's amazing that they have had couples say yes, and have couples who have lasted for 4 years going on 5 years. So yeah, now that's episode 10, you know. Yeah, so that's Zach and Bliss, and they meet Bliss's dad. It doesn't go so well, and then it kind of throws a wrench in the whole thing, has Bliss feeling a bit insecure about their relationship. Then in episode 11, you know, episode 11 we have, you know, yeah, so episode 11, we're just gonna move over to the I do's. We're starting off with Kwame and Chelsea. They're the first couple we're gonna see walk down the aisle. And you know, Chelsea's she didn't get Kwame's mom never showed up to the wedding. According to Kwame, his mom is not for the whole entire thing. He's not in support of that, but his siblings showed up. He has a brother and a sister. He's the youngest of 3 kids, and his siblings came and supported him throughout the experiment. And it seems like Kwame's family lives far away. I think his parents are still back in Ghana. I don't know where his siblings flew in from, which part of the country. So it seems like it was a big ordeal for them to come in and support him. And it was really nice. Chelsea really appreciated the whole thing. Kwame's sister being there, she brought Chelsea a purse made out of, you know, traditional material from Ghana, and it has some cultural significance for women getting married in according to Ghanaian traditions. And that was really sweet of her, and Chelsea was really moved by that, crying and all this. And it seemed like Chelsea and Kwame's sister, you know, they had developed a rapport and had talked previously on the phone, they had FaceTimed, and they get along quite well. So that was a lovely moment between Chelsea and Kwame's sister. And then, you know, episode 11 just ends on a cliffhanger with Kwame, you know, Chelsea obviously says yes. Chelsea been wanting to get married. And then we just have Kwame, you know, he gives a nice speech off the top of his head, and he's gonna let us know in episode 12 coming up on Friday whether he will say yes to Chelsea or no. So I saw, you know, in the comments on the internet, I saw someone say that there are 3 couples who said yes this season of Love is Blind, but I didn't want to get any spoilers, so I didn't click on that comment so that I don't find out who the 3 couples are. So my suspicion is that Kwame is gonna say yes. The speech he gave sounded like the kind of speech you would say to someone you're gonna say yes to. It would be crazy for him to talk so highly of her and then just, but then again, it was revealed, you know, the internet was doing its digging, that Kwame apparently has been on Married at First Sight. He was one of the contestants on Married at First Sight, one of the previous seasons. So Kwame may just also be doing this for clout, just to get exposure. I did kind of get that vibe from him in the pods when he was talking about how he was an ex-soccer player and how he was promoting, he was talking about his you know, he's an entrepreneur. He's the manager of his own business, the software management company that he has going on. And even when he serenaded Chelsea, I felt like he was low-key looking for a music deal or something. It's like he was just behaving in a way like he's promoting himself. So when I take that into consideration, I'm unsure with what Kwame will say. Will he say yes? Will he say no? Because if he's only in here for clout and he's not into Chelsea, I feel like it's not beneficial for him to be tied to Chelsea, so he'll say no. But the way he talked about Chelsea and how he stuck it out with her all through, even though, you know, she's overbearing on all this. I'm not sure. He may say yes, and you know, just like the previous couples of season 2, Ayana and Jarrett, Nick and that girl whose name I cannot remember, they end up getting divorced a year later. And so I'm not sure, but right now I'm leaning into yes. I feel like Kwame will say yes to Chelsea. I also feel like Micah and Paul will say yes at the altar. Yes, I feel like Micah and Paul are gonna get married. And the final couple, Tiffany and Brett. Yeah, let me say, for me, the couples that I feel like are gonna say yes, according to this one suspicious tweet, this spoiler tweet, there are 3 couples who said yes, but we don't know who they. I don't know who they are. I didn't want any spoilers, so I didn't go looking into it any further. This is my own speculation. So there are 3 couples that have said yes. I'm thinking Kwame and Chelsea. I feel like Kwame is gonna say yes. I'm thinking Brett and Tiffany will say yes, and I'm thinking Micah and Paul will say yes. Bliss and Zach, I feel like Bliss, you know, just getting over being second choice, and then with her dad coming and throwing this whole, you know, factual wrench into the whole thing, that I'm not sure about Zach and Bliss. Yeah, I'm thinking it's a no for Zach and Bliss. And obviously Jackie and Marshall, that's a train wreck. So we all know how that went. So actually, now that I think of it, between Zach and Bliss and Tiffany and Brett, I'm not sure who will say yes, because they've edited episode 12 in such a way as to make us feel like Brett and Tiffany are not gonna work out, like there's something wrong in their relationship, and there's some, you know, something that's just gonna come along and ruin that whole thing. So, and just the way Brett has been behaving this season, like, it's not bad, but it's like, I feel like there's something, that guy has just been so careful. Everything he talks, everything he says is just so perfect. It almost feels rehearsed. So I'm like, it's almost like there's another shoe we're waiting to drop. And I feel like Tiffany is showing signs of that too, with how she was panicking in episode 11, like how she was panicking about the wedding and stressing about the wedding. It's like Love is Blind covers all the expenses from the ring to the wedding, so all these people have to do is just participate and show up. So it was a little bit weird, like how much she was stressing. It's almost like there's something else that they're not mentioning that was stressing her out. So I'm not sure about Brett and Tiffany, but for now I'm just gonna say yes, Brett and Tiffany, but it's a shaky yes. Between Brett and Tiffany and Zach and Bliss, I'm gonna say Brett and Tiffany. So Zach and Bliss is a no. We already know Jackie and Marshall, that was a joke, so I'm not even gonna mention it. So yeah, my predictions: Kwame and Chelsea yes, Paul and Micah yes, Tiffany and Brett yes. So let me know in the comments down below, who do you think will say yes at the altar? And you know, check out my other spoiler reviews of Love is Blind, and my other you know, reviews on movies. I have a what I watched in March, you know, review on my channel. You can go and check that out, and go to the community tab. I post there from time to time, quite frequently, and just check out what's going on there. Thank you for listening. Bye.